This is Andrea Longton.
This is Leah Freemouth.
And this is Ebony Perkins. And we are Renegade Capital.
All views expressed in this podcast are our own. We are not financial planners, investment advisors, or tax advisors. The views that we have on this show do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the people who sign our paychecks. So please keep that in mind and always consult a trained financial professional before you start moving your hard-earned money. Let's dive in. So Leah and Ebony, are you a millennial, Gen X, baby boomer, Gen Z? Where do you fall in the spectrum?
So Gen X, 1978, right on that line. I think it depends on which Harvard Business Review article you read, whether 1980 is the cutoff or whatever, but I am that younger Gen X. What I appreciate about some of the data that I think CCM has pulled together is that actually Gen X is being cited as the generation that in 25 years will contain the most wealth because of their parents' transfer of wealth to their generation. And so finally, Gen X is being cited and will be, mentioned in an article. But we're used to it. We're the latchkey kids. We're the ones that got ignored anyway, the free range ones getting, we didn't even have seatbelts when we were growing up. So being ignored is normal. In that sense.
Dude, you could take some of that energy, because I feel like it's just, if anything bad happens in the world, it's the millennials. The millennials did it. It's their fault.
The flip side of that is like, the younger generations are fixing things that their parents screwed up. I'm really actually very excited about Gen Z and millennials and even folks in my generation, because we are doing things differently than our parents did. So.
I am the millennial generation, and I love my people. I love what we're doing and we're bringing to the table, and I'm super excited about this conversation in particular because I feel like there are a lot of different topics happening around, how younger generations, millennials in particular, are bringing their parents and their grandparents along on their investing journey. And I know firsthand that experience. And I have personally been introducing my parents and even my grandparents, my grandfather in particular, to what socially responsible investing is, how they can do some good with their money. And they're like, yeah, I never thought about that. I just only know about stocks and bonds. We're still doing that. We're still staying in that space. But it's been cool to see the tables turn and me become like a teacher in this space. Who thought that would have happened? But it has, and I'm loving it.
I'm a millennial for sure. 1987, right in the middle of the pack. Yep. I like my people too. We're thinking about it. We're figuring it out. I'm really looking forward to seeing what millennials and even Gen Xers, who can come to Leah, do in the financial markets, because it's kind of like a social construct in finance where you had one set of beliefs that play through. And I'm talking about financial beliefs of how do you invest? And where do you draw boundaries in investing, and who's doing the investing, and who's able to talk about investing, because it's talking about money is taboo. Talking about money as women is particularly taboo. And so to move into a new generation where women are managing more money, and women feel more comfortable talking about money, and to see how that plays out in the financial markets, I think is going to be really neat.
Yeah, I'm glad you flagged the gender thing. Just that even in the learnings that we had our last season, we asked Khadijah Tribble what a renegade is. And she said, well, you ladies are badass. You're women in the financial sector. I hadn't thought about how unique that is, because we're in kind of the social side of the financial industry, as is embedded in CDFIs. But in the bigger scheme of things, we are different. We're outliers. Like Mackenzie Scott, people are singing her praises or, slamming her for doing the grant making that she's doing the way she wants to do it. Do you think they would do the same if it was Jeff Bezos? If he decided just to kind of quietly donate money how he wanted? No, I don't think so. He's building big penises and sending them into space. He's a punchline in that sense, but no one's questioning his decision making the same way they're questioning her investments and grant dollars into organizations that she just handpicks and doesn't have a process for. Like, it's her money.
Yeah.
You know, big dick in space is one thing. Grant making's another, you know.
Now, you know those boomers, they're going to have something to say about you saying big dick in space. But
So let's just talk about women, because in 2 years, women are projected to control 2/3 of private wealth in the U.S. And last year, roughly a quarter of new domestic billionaires were women. So we are seeing women having more control over their assets. And I like this stat in particular. On average, women live 4 to 7 years longer than men. And studies show that 70% of new widows fire their financial advisors. And all I can say is good for them. Like, good for them. But I have to say I'm triggered today about this topic because, like, no joke, an hour before we started recording, my husband looked over and said, "Hey, did you get this note from our college?" Because we both went to the same college and we donate to the college. And I said, "No, what was it?" That the new person who's in charge of development at the college is going to be in town, wants to know, like, if we're free, if he was free for breakfast or lunch or coffee. And I was like, I didn't get a note. I looked through it. I didn't get a note. I said, forward it to me. And he forwarded it to me, and it said, to Mr. Longton. And I was like, really? Like, really? I manage our finances. Like, I'm the one that sends the checks.
Well, that little lady, that's just because your husband lets you do that.
We both went to the college. What are you doing? So I was so triggered before the show.
I hope whoever that development person is, I hope they listen to this.
Oh, I'm totally going to go and be like, why did he get an email and I didn't? Your predecessor did not do this.
Yeah.
Your predecessor knew what was up, man. What are you going to do? Call him out. Podcast.
Oh, baby, you call them in. You call them in.
Yeah.
That's what us millennials do.
Can you imagine? And women are statistically more interested in sustainable investing than men. I'd love to have my crystal ball and see, like, 30 years from now, how does this one thing make a difference as more women are taking control of their finances and socially and financially taking control of their assets?
I can't remember the quote word for word, but there's a quote: if you give a woman a job, you're not only providing for a woman, but you're providing for an entire family. And I think the same goes with investments. Who we are as people, as women, we don't only think about ourselves. We think about all of those people that we're carrying on our backs. And we're going to think about that, and we're going to take that piece of ourselves when it comes to our investments. And I love that. Now, that doesn't mean that we are any less capable or inept or uneducated than any man. It's just that we are thinking bigger picture. And I'm excited to see what millennials and Xers, Leah, what we all do with that.
And this is a shift too, and why I'm encouraged about the younger generation coming up behind me. You know, we're still a generation just removed from mom stay at home, dad's the breadwinner. And so in my circle of friends, over, I would say 80% of us the women are the main breadwinner for the family and the men are staying home. I'm hopeful that gender and like gender-based home roles are becoming less and less genderized. Is that even a word? Less gendered. As the younger generations further away from the baby boomers don't care about that stuff.
So I don't know who put it in there, but I love the title of Okay Boomer because it totally reshifted how I was thinking about this. This is a phenomenon that's happening in financial markets that some people are like, yeah, this is going to happen. This is going to change the world. And other people are like, no, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. It's fine. Everything is normal, which is that in the next 20 years, $68 trillion, trillion with a T, is transferring from baby boomers to their descendants, be it Gen Xers, Millennials, Gen Z. And it looks like Gen Xers and Millennials will indeed invest differently than their parents and their grandparents based on different values. And the ripple effects of where money is going is huge. And we have guests who are coming on today to talk about the data that they aggregated from different sources about where money is moving, how it's moving, trends they're noticing over time of how millennials and Gen Xers invest differently than baby boomers, and what that could possibly mean for our financial markets. Because $68 trillion is a heck of a lot of money. and what happens when you have an entire systems change that moves from one school of thought slowly over to another school of thought, and what can we expect, and how's the market reacting to it? Because it's a big culture change, which I think is pretty cool. We're going to talk to Alyssa Greenspan and Jessica Botelho of Community Capital Management about what they're seeing and what they do at CCM. And we have to tell you that CCM is one of our sponsors for this season. We are exceedingly grateful for their support, but we would have invited them anyway. They are an incredible force that have been working in community investing through capital markets for over 2 decades, long before anybody was really thinking about it en masse. And they've done some neat things. So this is Andrea Longton.
This is Ebony Perkins.
This is Leah Freemow.
We are Renegade Capital, and today we're talking about how the different generations, Millennials, GenXers, and even those baby boomers, are investing in their money and firing their financial advisors along the way. Renegade Capital is proud to be sponsored by LenderFit. LenderFit is technology for community lenders, done right. I first fell in love with LenderFit when I realized that it broke down obstacles for small business owners seeking capital by listening to the communities it serves. LenderFit transforms loan applications into projects. The technology streamlines applications and supports customers on their own terms. They meet them where they are. 98% of LenderFit's clients are CDFIs and nonprofit lenders. Thank you for being Season 2's lead sponsor. Visit lenderfit.io for more information about how your CDFI can transform its capacity. So we always like to start with an introduction, and we love to start with introductions through stories. So by way of introduction, can you tell us a little bit about Community Capital Management and yourselves? When you sit around the Thanksgiving table with your friends and family, how do you describe what you do?
So Community Capital Management has actually been around for a long time, since 1999. I started at the company in 2003. Impact investing was not a coined phrase at that point, but what the company was heavily involved in was working with financial institutions to help them meet their Community Reinvestment Act investment needs, which very simplified just means helping banks invest in low to moderate income communities in which they operate. If they do well on their CRA exam, which is a federal regulation, if they do well on that and they're examined every, say, 2 to 3 or 5 years, then they're able to proceed through with mergers and acquisitions and opening up new branches and different things of that sort. So it's important for banks to have this on their books. And so we operate a mutual fund that helps them meet their needs efficiently. When I joined CCM, which was then at the time called CRA Fund Advisors, I didn't know much of anything about Community Reinvestment Act, except I had worked at a bank, so I knew what CRA was, but I didn't know what it actually meant, that the investments were having such a positive impact in low to moderate income communities, helping the banks, yes, meet a regulatory need, but having this ancillary positive benefit. So I started at the firm, and I started working, and I started learning more about the investments we were making. And I was like, it's almost like I fell into it. I was so excited because it's definitely part of my background I like to give back to the community. I like to be involved in volunteer activities. I try to instill that with my family and my children. I kind of grew up that way. My parents kind of raised me that way. So the fact that I ended up working for a firm that was making these investments on behalf of clients that had such a huge positive impact was just a great thing to sort of fall into. And now almost 20 years later, 19 years later, I've seen the firm grow to its current shape and form. And we work not just with banks, but many different types of institutional investors. And as impact investing, which I know we'll get into more, has become more prevalent and more widely adopted by all different types of investors, we're definitely seeing the ability to make an even greater positive impact in the areas in the United States that need it the most.
And Jessica, what's a favorite story that you like to tell people about what you do with your day?
I joined CCM in 2013, and I got to witness some pretty exciting growth. Through that time, our assets more than doubled, just with the interest in impact investing growing every day. And there's more and more people coming into the industry, giving their 2 cents on what impact investing is. So I really like to share what we do by talking about stories. There's one particular story that really stands out. It's so hard to pick. People say, what's your favorite impact story? It's really like they're my children. I work on the reporting side of things, and I'm so lucky to get to report back to our clients on all the positive impact their investing is having. So it's hard to pick one story, but one investment that really stands out to me and I love to share with friends and family. I actually was lucky enough to go visit. And this is an affordable housing property. The name is Jack Satter House. And it was named after a dedicated philanthropist who donated heavily to the property's sponsor, which is Hebrew Senior Life. And it's a really large community. It has over 250 units of affordable housing for low-income seniors and disabled residents. And this affordability isn't short-term. It's preserved under long-term Section 8 contracts. And this is what we look for when we're making investments. We don't want short-term affordability. We want residents to feel supported in long-term housing. When I was lucky to visit the property on a trip, there were so many great features about the property, but what stood out to me most and stuck with me was the excitement that all the residents shared. So during a tour with the property manager, I ran into several women in the elevator, and they were so eager to show me their apartments. The pride that they showed in their homes and their community was really heartwarming. They were sharing how jealous many of their friends were that didn't qualify to live there, who were still waiting on wait lists to rent. It was a really great property. Their units were beautiful. The apartments were constructed so that almost all of them have direct ocean views. It's on Revere Beach in Massachusetts, which is just north of Boston. And it really made for a peaceful environment. In addition to the great location, residents had access to so many support services on site at the property. There was a community garden that they were excited to show where residents, they can grow herbs and vegetables for, the short period of time in Massachusetts that you can do so. There was a full gym with a health and fitness specialist who provided group classes to residents if they were interested, but also personalized fitness plans and even just showing residents how to use the equipment, which can be really intimidating. I know it's intimidating for me if I walk into a gym. I have no idea what I'm doing and I turn around and leave. So I thought that was a nice feature. There's a computer center. There was a full restaurant that serves dinner to the residents every evening. And for outside of dinner, for lunch, there's a coffee shop on site as well. There was a dedicated worship space, as well as several religious groups on site at the property. And residents really didn't need to leave for much. And if they did need to leave, public transportation was close by, and it was very easily accessible to the North Shore and Boston as well. One last thing that I'll just highlight that really makes this one of my favorites is all the programs that were offered to residents. There was so many social and educational and cultural activities. But one the residents were really excited to share with me was the multi-generational programs. They work with a lot of different local schools, and that's really proven to help both children and seniors alike to really have that interaction. There was a pen pal program that one of the residents I spoke to was currently engaged in with an elementary school student, and really loved it. So it's stories like these that I love to share with family and friends and our clients, just showing how impactful their investments really can be.
And what was CCM's role in that property?
Yeah, so we purchased it as a bond, so it was permanent financing.
So CCM helped to finance that property?
Yes.
That's excellent. It's always whenever you get to go visit the people who benefit from the financing, who get to feel the implications of whenever they have affordable capital coming to them to be able to reach their full potential. That I like to say, people drink the Kool-Aid. They get it. This is why we do it. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that story. Renegade Capital is proud to be sponsored by Community Capital Management, or CCM. CCM is an investment firm with over 2 decades of experience managing impact and ESG investing portfolios. Its mission seeks to deliver superior risk-adjusted returns through investment strategies that contribute to positive environmental and social outcomes. We're really proud to be sponsored by Community Capital Management because its investments look to benefit underserved individuals, families, and communities, including women and minorities. Visit ccminvest.com to learn more. Before y'all joined, we were talking about this transfer of wealth. We looked at the brief that CCM prepared in October of last year, and we're just spellbound by some of the data, especially in this 68 trillion with a T. I have to say it every time because it's so much money. The $68 trillion shift in assets and financial assets and money that's shifting from a baby boomer population to a Gen X and Millennial populations over the next 20 years and 30 years. That's a huge shift of money. And since you all have been in this industry for several decades, and CCM for several decades and longer, and I'm curious what roles that you've seen shifting in this. So have you seen a shift in the interest in impact investing, and have you seen a shift over the generations?
But I'll just say my little celebratory dance there was because I'm Gen X and we were finally mentioned in an article as a generation that's going to do something, even though we've been doing shit for years. Finally, we're going to. So thank you for that.
It is interesting, though. You raise a good point, because before we, not just us, but when we put this out, and I did sort of the same thing where I was like, thankfully, they're not just skipping the Gen X generation and saying it's only the millennials that are interested in this, because that's not true. Speaking as a Gen Xer, even though my kids like to say okay boomer, which I noticed was one of the titles on your podcast. And I'm like, no, I'm not a boomer. I'm not even close, a little close. But anyway, so no, we've definitely seen the generational shift. And, I'll preface this by saying, look, we're not financial advisors, but being in the impact investing industry for, 20 odd years, you can see it at conferences and at industry events, and just the makeup of our client base as well, that it's definitely shifting towards younger generations. The millennials, but again, I would also say the Gen Xers do have a really vested interest and in putting their investments in alignment with their values, their missions, their goals. It's not just about a financial return, but it's how it impacts the world around them. And with climate change and other negative ramifications happening, there's ways that investments can make a difference and can help. I mean, it's not going to solve everything, but it can certainly help to make a difference. So, I've probably seen it the most in the events that I attend, and we sometimes will put together panels at conferences. And I remember back in 2013, 14, I remember exactly what year, I put together a panel on millennial investors and their interest in impact investing. And one of the women who was there, or who we ended up having speak on the panel, she is from a very large family office. She had inherited a lot of money, and she created a family office, and she said, I'm all in 100% impact. I'm not even going to talk about like investing in a traditional sense, because this is where I want to put all of my money. So having her on a panel and speaking to an audience where, traditionally you go to these conferences and it's really a lot of older white males, shall we say, that are in the audience. So it's good to see the diversification among investor types and just people in general, and the interest in impact investing.
What are your perspectives, Jessica?
I completely agree with what Alyssa said. I also think that CCM's growth is a sign of a clear shift in the interest in impact investing. And I see millennials and Gen Xers really having helped reshape the narrative for impact investing. For a large majority of millennials, you hear the best part of investing is the impact that their money can have on helping make the world a better place. And that's really encouraging. We know from the report we put out that 86% of active millennial investors are interested in sustainable investing, or investing in companies or funds that aim to generate market rate financial returns while also pursuing the positive environmental and or social aspect. And that's big, that's a big number, and it's really great. And, many millennials and Gen Xers have made impact investing a priority at the organizations that they work at. As Alyssa mentioned, we've seen this firsthand at family offices and family foundations. They're looking to do something positive with their lives, and this includes every aspect of their life. including those investment portfolios.
And they're still making money. I mean, they're not like they're doing good and making money, correct? It's not just anecdotal.
Correct. There certainly are ways that you can give away your money and not have a return on it. Although I think it was on your podcast, or maybe it was a different one, where you talk about having the negative 100% return.
Essentially a grant.
Essentially a grant, right? What used to be called a grant or donation, right? And that resonated with me though. But then there is definitely a spectrum of investing, whether it be a grant, donation, or whatever the new terminology is for it, to having a market rate or higher return on your investment. So when we're talking about the types of investments that we're making, we're looking at market rates of return. We're not looking for any concessionary returns. We first and foremost, we're a fiduciary. We have to act, in the best interest of our clients. And first and foremost, that's producing a rate of return, a competitive market rate of return.
So that affordable housing project, Jessica, that you mentioned, I mean, it was a bond financing product, but the investor made a market rate return and was able to support this community. That's what those investments kind of look like. Is that accurate?
Right. So we traditionally invest in 3 or 4 different sectors of the bond market. They're traditional in the sense that they're highly liquid. Our securities tend to be high credit quality, so we're not looking to take on any undue risk from a credit perspective. They act within a portfolio, or how we manage them within a portfolio, again, to produce this market rate of return. So any one particular bond might have, might perform differently, but as a whole, that's our goal on behalf of our clients.
And from the impact side, we really need to dive in deep and make sure that the proceeds are going directly to, finance positive environmental and social projects.
Yeah, no impact washing. That's always so demoralizing whenever you see this great investment and then see, nope, really wasn't.
I'm a millennial. Y'all know my generation, we're a little different, and we enjoy calling people out. or like some of us say, we call them in. I can see many of us are starting to get into impact investing, but I can also see us getting to a place where we will want to see or understand more about the actual results that our investments are having. Can you speak to how millennials getting involved in this space, how that can force the impact industry as a whole to become a bit more transparent? Or if that's even possible, what can you do in order to meet millennials halfway with seeing the actual results of those investments?
I love that question, Ebony, because that's what I do at CCM. I get to work with our clients to make sure that, we're investing towards their, mission and goals, but also report back on the specific use of proceeds of where their money is going, across many different factors. So I am always looking, and our firm is always looking to come up with new ways to share the impact of investments. And, I think we're pretty good at it, but we're always looking for new ways to grow in that space. So I think that, as there are more interested, millennials and entering the market and demanding more transparency, I think it just is a positive for the space as a whole. And it can be done.
And I'd love to give an example, something that we're actually still working on, and hopefully we'll have rolled out later this year. So one of the initiatives that we are very supportive of is improving economic justice, really addressing the racial wealth gap that exists in the United States. We launched an initiative a couple of years ago after the George Floyd murder, but as part of that, we've been investing in pools of mortgages that have been made to low to moderate income borrowers since our inception. So we can track, we know how many low to moderate income borrowers received a mortgage, where they're located, what type of neighborhood, and such. So we're able to track, are they in a minority neighborhood? So is it helping home ownership? And I'm kind of all over the place, so I'll rely on your editing. But home ownership is really one of the basic and most likely means to create wealth. And obviously, we've seen a huge disparity in the racial wealth gap, partly due to the limited opportunities for home ownership among minorities and others in this country. So through the study of our mortgage-backed securities since our inception, I don't know if we'll be able to go back that far, but hopefully we'll be able to determine what has been the wealth that's been created as a result of these mortgages to women, to minorities, in a minority community, in a minority population. And that's just some of the reporting that we're looking to add to our, to our criteria, so that we can sort of prove that you can do this. We can make a difference in a sort of securitized fixed income product that is sort of a traditional investment.
I guess I'm thinking about all the policies and kind of even the politicians and all the programs that would benefit from seeing that data and the actual trends of wealth building. Will CCM publish it, make it accessible to policymakers? How will that data be used outside of your firm to facilitate change?
Yeah, I mean, our goal is to partner with one of the large, I don't know exactly how you describe them, sort of online providers of estimates of like a Zillow or a Redfin that, provides estimates of what the home value is, and then compare their data to what the, at the time of issuance, what the loan value was, to basically get a sense of the, the incremental wealth that was created as a result of that. There's going to be some intricacies or nuances as a result of it. But yeah, our goal would be, once we have the data and we're comfortable with it, we sort of had it audited, then I think we'd be in a position to, expand it, extend it out to wherever it would be beneficial.
I love that. And what I'm hearing is impact investments are actually making a difference, and they can make a difference. And Alyssa and Jessica, y'all are proving it. When there are questions out here, which they do come up every now and again. So thank you.
How do you think investors are going to react to that data? Most investors, traditional investors, don't think that it is a wise decision to invest mortgage-backed securities or pick mortgage-backed securities that invest in low-wealth communities. And one of the first times that I met CCM, it was with working with a potential mortgage-backed security portfolio, and I said, that's awesome that you get to actually go and pick which communities that you want to invest in, because as an impact investor, it felt like, well, duh, people are creditworthy. Go invest in places that are boxed out. But I have since learned that that is not the standard response. So I'm curious how investors have responded and reacted to your products. And also, if you're getting any different reactions from younger generations versus older generations.
I come in working with the clients. So I'm so fortunate that everybody I work with on the client side cares about this, right? So I'm not sure I see that big of a difference, because they're already investing with us. It already shows that they care. One thing that CCM has is 18 impact themes. So our clients can choose to invest based on a geography or one of our 18 impact themes, one of which is affordable housing, which is a very popular theme. A lot of themes are popular, but you do see across the spectrum of different client types and different investor types that, people still understand the importance of providing affordable home ownership. That I see as a very encouraging fact.
And Alyssa, this next question's for you. I'm going to go back to the next gen investors. That, from your experience, if you had to boil it down into a couple sentences and you had to tell all the financial advisors out there, how would you describe next gen investors? What do they need to get? What do financial advisors need to understand to just fundamentally get about next-gen investors as fundamental differences from their parents or grandparents?
I just think that what we've seen is a huge shift in investing was something that, you sort of had to do. You were saving for retirement. You were putting money away for whatever purpose. And it was just, all right, stocks, bonds, balanced portfolio, and you're done. And then as there were all these different innovative and exciting opportunities to make changes with your investment, to make positive impact, et cetera, I think it really is shifted to where now the next gen is saying, yes, I want to make money and I want to save for retirement and do all the other things I want to do, but I also want to use my money for something else, and the fact that we can use our money for a common good, or to combat climate change, or to invest in our communities where we live and where we work. why not do it? If you can get an acceptable financial return, and there's a look through as well that you know where your money's going to, you can measure, you can receive outcomes and metrics on the positive impact. Almost like, why don't you do it? You know what is, and that's where I think that there's been a shift in the mindset among, like, say, my parents, who, my dad, he just looked at stocks and bonds and he never thought about what they were doing or what they were actually investing in, except the return that it gave him. And then I think about myself and my kids, my one millennial child who she wants to do, like, she asked me about it, like, what are my college savings invested in, and things of that sort. So I see the shift in my own family, so I can equate it to that. But I think that that's widespread, in the investing universe.
It's almost a cautionary tale, especially based on the data that you said that 66% of kids fire their parents' financial advisors once they've inherited, and now they have to manage a portfolio around their values. Can you talk a little bit about that and maybe some specific examples of why or what it might look like? I mean, I think we've already seeing and understand, okay, they want to do things differently, but is it because the financial advisor isn't flexing? There's not products. Like, why do they need to sever the relationship rather than just kind of work through it?
I mean, we hear from a lot of our financial advisors that we work with who are winning business from other advisors who do not have or have not taken the time to learn about their clients' values or objectives, or even about impact investing in general. So the clients go to them and they say, yes, my parents have been doing it this way, and now I'm interested in learning more, and I want to get involved with ESG and impact investing. And the advisor says, oh, well, I know a little bit about it. I can point you in the direction. You can do some reading, but that's not part of my practice. And you've seen specialists, advisors who basically have taken the time, have gone through different certification programs, and just took the time and the resources to learn more about impact investing, ESG. Their firms, I mean, some firms have been really good about really taking this on and giving their advisors the tools to learn. So I think that there's a greater knowledge in the investing universe that there are intermediaries out there who are able to sit down with their clients and not just understand impact and ESG investing, but also take the time to ask their clients, what are you interested in? What are your values? What do you want to see with your portfolio in addition to sort of a traditional stock and bond model portfolio? So I think a lot of it is educational. Transparency, which Ebony mentioned before, is very important. And we've seen it in the capital markets. We've seen some additional transparency in some of the sectors that we invest in. But I think just in more general, we've really seen it with advisors and their clients. And that's, I believe, why there's been a shift to, those intermediaries that are taking the time to learn more about their clients' values and wants.
Has some of your younger clients, or maybe not even your younger clients, but younger millennials who are inheriting money from their families, has there been any talk around them maybe not being respected by advisors, or treated as if they are younger and may not know everything, and they're just kind of expected to do as they say? Because that has been some of the feedback that I've received from others my age.
Yeah, I don't have that much experience, I'd say, with that, since we don't usually work directly with the individual client. Our clients tend to be more the advisors or the intermediaries, and then we may know who their underlying clients are. But I would say, from what I've heard, just sort of anecdotally, that definitely syncs up with what I've heard too. Is that, and again, I think it goes back to just asking the questions, right? Just asking the clients. Whoever the client is, whether it's the baby boomer, Gen X, or millennial, what do you want from your portfolio?
That's the scariest question. What do you want? It is such a huge question, but a really important one, because investments are defined by what is your objective and what are your constraints, and how do we build something out through those. I just keep thinking about that that story that you talked about at the beginning, where you did a panel at a financial planning or financial services conference, and there were women on the panel, which is kind of rare, especially five years ago. And I just keep imagining the audience of like a bunch of old white men, because 98.6 of all assets under management in the U.S. are managed by people who identify as both white and male. So like this is more than just anecdotal. Like this is real. And I just keep thinking about this audience, and I keep thinking, what are they thinking right now? Like, what are they thinking about this great wealth transfer, and what are they doing about it? And you've spoken a bit about some people are really taking the time to get their certifications and to learn this and to ask their clients, what do you, client who pays me, want to do, and how can I help you with that? What's the vibe among mainstream financial analysts? Have you seen a shift, or are people nervous about the great wealth transfer? Are they thinking about it, or is it, yeah, we'll figure it out when we get there?
Yeah, I would just say I think they need to be talking about this, because they're gonna lose their clients if they haven't already. And we've seen somewhat of a shift, I would say, among some of the intermediaries that we work with, where 10, 12 years ago, I was going in their offices and talking to them about impact investing and using their fixed income portion of their portfolio and et cetera, et cetera. And they looked at me like, that can't be done. You can't do that. And now 10, 12 years later, they're some of our biggest shareholders, our biggest investors, because their clients got it and we're asking them for it. And they said, oh, we got to go back to that community, not just us, Community Capital and other entities who are offering these services and these investment products, and really sit down and learn what they're doing. And because our clients are asking, and if our clients, don't get what they want, especially with, and I'll call out the millennials here, they are willing to just move around. I mean, they don't have to stay in one place. Certainly they don't like to live in one place, as we all know. So they, I don't think they're shy. They won't be shy about moving their money around.
Millennials get a bad rap. I'm a millennial. With a lot of things, like we not liking to live in one place, but this is a conversation where I'm really proud to be a millennial,
Before you all jumped on, we had the same conversation. We're like, thank goodness that we're getting some good stuff from this, because I'm a millennial too. I'm just like, you can make a difference, and grassroots can make a difference for how money is moved, because you're right. Clients are getting more confidence in their ownership of assets, and we're seeing that shift generationally, but also more money is coming to women. And women think differently about money than men. In many cases, not always, there are exceptions. But to see that transfer as well, I love the statistic of 70% of widows fire their financial advisor. Just how women are moving money differently, and how women expect to be treated by their financial advisors is different.
And one other big disruption, I think, maybe is helping this with the younger generation, is the technology. And so maybe Robinhood's not the best example, but the fact that, we as individuals can do more of this ourselves. How have you all reacted to that, added technology to your approach with your investors and your clients, and what is that expectation of, being able to have information and access and make decisions via tech, rather than actually having a relationship with an advisor, which is kind of more old school and traditional in a process?
So one of the features that we think is really sort of really unique to our process is that our clients can direct us on where they want their investments to make a difference, whether it's in their geography, it's in one of those impact themes that Jessica was talking about. So right now we currently have it available for higher end clients to make an election on where they want to invest. But one of the things we're working on, potentially technology-wise, is to have the ability to go to a lower minimum, say for $10,000 or $25,000. You could direct your investment into affordable housing or gender lens investing, and then receive the report and the information on what your investment was, what the outcomes were, what the impact metrics are. Now, this is probably a little bit off in the distance, and I mentioned we usually do not work with retail investors, but that's definitely something that we're seeing technology will play a huge role in. That we have the systems right now to do it at sort of the institutional level, But as impact investing does become more mainstream and as more people are doing it themselves on those types of apps, Robinhood and others, then there'll probably be a high demand for the ability to customize even at a low level your invest or minimum, a lower minimum, your investments in your community. So again, that's something that's probably off in the distance for us, but definitely something we keep on our horizon because it is exciting and I think will really, further tells the story.
Yeah, I could see that being, like as you describe it, I'm like, ooh, you'd get to meet the human on the other side of your money, right? Like maybe it's a story or it's a link to a business's website or a picture of the home, but like that relationship, could be built, as the way you described it. Like you could see your money actually working.
You get to drink the Kool-Aid.
And that's definitely that's a great point because that's something that when Jessica speaks with our clients and that they love the stories. They love the impact stories. Like she talked about the Jack Sauter house. I also got to go visit a property in Minneapolis and very similar where it was affordable housing. It really helped revitalize the neighborhood in Minneapolis that it was located in because it not only created affordable rental housing, but then around it, different the grocery stores came into the neighborhood, single family homes came in the neighborhood. So it's interesting to see how one property can help really revitalize a neighborhood and putting those stories to paper and to talk about them. That's what gets people really excited.
I have a question. I'm just thinking of all the different people that I know that are interested in this, and they may not want to jump head first into, public equities. But I love what you're doing here. I love that you are tracking the results of these investments and after a certain amount of time, you can show how, what impact they've made. So if somebody wants to by chance invest with you, how can they go about doing that? Who do they need to talk to? Can they do it on their phone? Give us some information, please.
So we can't do it on the phone yet, but we do have a website where you can learn more about the products that Community Capital offers. There is a mutual fund where the minimum investment for a retail investor is, I think it's as low as $1,000. Those investments are not specifically targeted to one community or one impact theme, but they're part of a broader pool that is still investing in economic and positive impact securities. So every quarter we produce a report on the mutual fund overall from an impact perspective on what all the investments in the fund have done during the quarter. So even if you're not an institutional investor that's targeting affordable housing, you still know the positive impact that the fund made during the quarter, and all of that's available on our website. So you go to our website, which is ccminvest.com. And if you look under the strategies, there's one for the retail share class, and it'll give you more information on how to invest.
If I want to work through my financial advisor, and can I point her to you, or should for help on where to go for education or where to go to learn more, or is that not a great route?
No, they can certainly come to us directly. We have 4 different salespeople throughout the country that work directly with financial advisors. So I believe it's on our website how we have the different territories split up, but they can always call our main number and we can put them, route them in the right direction.
We end every interview with the same question. And Jessica, I'm going to ask you first. This is Renegade Capital. How do you define renegade?
A really great question. And to me, a renegade is someone who is willing to challenge or rebel against conventional thinking, someone who is discontent with convention.
And Alyssa, same question to you. How do you define renegade?
I don't know if I could say it better than Jessica. I like her definition, but I agree. Someone who's also willing to step outside of their boundaries and look to make a difference, regardless of what they're doing with it, but that they're willing to step outside of themselves and do something different and unique.
Thank you.
And thank you for the support.
Yeah, I was remiss at the beginning, and I want to circle back. Thank you, Ebony, and say thank you so much for the sponsorship. We could not have done this without you. And we are so extremely excited to be able to put on the season 2. and really, really grateful for your support. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. No, it's definitely a worthy podcast to support. We're so excited to be able to work with you all. So it's been great.
What'd y'all think?
Yeah, I mean, I personally love that young people can educate older folks on this area. And I think it's a good way really to bring the generations together if we use it in a positive way. So I'm excited about what CCM, Community Capital Management, is doing also. I mean, they're providing some really cool products for your investments that do some really, really great things in local communities. And I'll be honest, that's to have an organization strictly focused on that, and fixed income in that space. That's not everywhere in the financial industry. So I really love what they're doing, and I love that they've really become a leader in this space, and I appreciate that. And they're using their platform in order to educate others, i.e. through the document that we were referring to. So maybe we can include a link to that in our notes as well.
If we ever have a follow-up conversation with them or a similar firm, they talked about market rate of return, reasonable risk, and so good stewards of the investments. Absolutely, totally understand it. The other side of that, to me, and maybe that's because that's where I'm headed with Bridging Virginia, is things like appraisals and crime scores and things that associate value that were built off of traditional standards. If they are using those as they should. So how are they challenging their risk tolerance around this if they really want to break open and have deeper community impact? And are they having those conversations internally around the, kind of the bias and the redlining that kind of built some of these tools? And and maybe not them specifically, but having that conversation around risk tolerance and where those things are starting to shift would be an interesting thing to pull forward.
Yeah, there are two words that irritate me in finance and how they're used, which are fiduciary and suitability. Because they're so often thrown up as, oh no, we can't even consider impact investing because we have a fiduciary duty, or we have to find something that's suitable for the client. And I thought the client decided what the objectives were. I thought the client got to say what is suitable for the client. Like, why does my financial advisor get to tell me that something is not suitable when I'm saying that my main objective is to put money into people and planet? And no, that's just not suitable. Why do you get to decide what's suitable? And I know there's like 10 ways to Sunday of the legal statutes behind that and the financial statutes behind that. But so much of it is just culture of what is okay and what's not okay.
Well, and perceived risk based on bias and stereotypes and history that is not necessarily accurate.
Yeah. Risk is subjective. And we've come to think that risk is objective and can be defined through things like FICO scores and crime scores. Like, come on, that's insane. But we've come to expect that is objective, and it's just not. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Renegade Capital Podcast. You can listen to previous episodes on your favorite podcasting platform, and be sure to follow us on social media at Renegade Capital Podcast, or check out our website at www.renegadecapitalpodcast.com to never miss a new release.